So anyway, we're going to discuss Smartsheets today, and basically what I use it for is the simplistic side of the Gantt chart side. So it does a lot more. It's very much like Excel, and you do calculations in it and all that kind of stuff. But it's also very good value because the kind of entry level product's about $7, I think. But that's if you buy a year in advance. So basically, like I said, I use it for the Gantt chart side. So I've actually got one I prepared earlier. Okay. So using my Blue Peter phrase. So I'll just show that. All right. So okay, so hopefully you can see that.
Yep.
This is a Gantt chart, and this is a very simple one. So I just started building it to kind of show a few things that you need to know in using Smartsheet. So it's quite simple to add a new item in. So it could be, I've got as far as all the joists there. So in fact, there's a, above joist lift would be the next phase there. Whoops, that again. Above joist lift for brickwork. If you go through here and see every site you ever do should have a design stage. You should have a design stage built in, and that's really important. And then you've got so the design stage has got three things. So here what we do is we indent or outdent. So you can see if I have made these further across there just by pressing the button up here. When you press on them, you can see there's a button available which moves left and right. So if I want to have a look at a simple program, I could just get rid of the detail, so it all disappears, and you just have the main bars. And the great thing about these bars is you can edit them, you can do different things with them. So if you have a look at design stage, for instance, I've made that one red, and we go to the clear site. You can use different colors to make sure that you can read it. But also the real kind of trick in this is once you set this all up for one site, you can just template it and copy it, and then you can just adjust it. So you don't have to be putting all this stuff in. I know every site is slightly different, but you can delete things, you can move things, you can put new things in or change them. But you set this up. And one of the kind of key things about it is trying to get the relationships to the bars. So I've tried to set this up to show you a few different relationships. So if we look, I think construction phase is the best one to look at because it kind of shows you how it works. So we've got this bar here, which is clear site. But halfway through clear sites, we're going to start to set up the compound. Okay, so it could be digging footings and doing substructure brickwork. You might do one half and then do the other half, however you're going to do it. But it overlaps here. So there's four basic relationships between the bars, and they are start to start, which is SS, start to finish, finish to start, and finish to finish. So just to explain that, you can see this little line here, which is now being highlighted, which is blue. This is a start to start relationship. So it's from that start to that start. So you're saying that that item cannot start until you're a week into the other item. Okay. So
it says plus 1 week.
Yeah. So, and that's why we've got, what we've done is we've said, look, the relationship is number 10, which is clear site. So we're saying what relationship is with. Then we're saying what the relationship is, which is just abbreviation of start, SS. Yeah. And then you go plus 1 week or minus, or one day. So 1 day is 1D, 1 week is 1W. So it's really quite a simple You know, once you get into the language, and if you make a mistake, you just go, oh yeah, and just put the right one in. So, you know, you can look at it. So that's relationship there. Now, for instance, on this one here, the standard relationship in the bars, by the way, it doesn't show it. The reason is what they call default. So default relationship is a finish to start. So something finishes, something else starts. Okay. So it doesn't actually show it. You might write it in, but if you just put 12, it'll just follow that next bar.
Okay.
Okay. So we've got a bar here. So we've got block and beam. And what I've got here is I've got block and beam here. And you can see the relationship is it's order block and beam that I'm interested in. So the relationship is actually to get the block and beam, which is 15. Yeah. So what we've done is we've done a start to start. So relationship is that it's relative to the start of that. And then we're saying minus 6 weeks. So if you look at this, we have this thing called a milestone. Okay. Now a milestone I use for materials, and a milestone just means that it hasn't got any time allocated to it. It's just a point. Okay. So it doesn't take a day to do. It doesn't take 3 days to do. So that kind of allows you to put all your materials as milestones, or your kind of your nudges to order materials. So you can imagine setting this up as on a site and doing that. And the other benefit of this is on this bar, we've set up an alarm. So we've got a reminder. Okay. So that reminder will email us and say, today, by the way, you've got to order the block and beam. Okay. So if we want to set that up, this reminder is set up on the start of that milestone. So rather than, it does give you the option to do it on actual date. If you make sure it's on the start of the milestone, the start of the whatever you're having a reminder for, start of the first fix, the start. If you move the program, the reminder will move. Okay.
Okay, so it's everything. So if you change something, everything is going to move forward or backwards.
It will do, yeah, yeah, because it's all linked. So it's a really quick way of moving that. Okay. So the other thing you can do.
How you put in the alarm?
How do you put in what? Sorry.
The alarm for.
Okay, so all you do is you go to here.
Okay.
So let's say we do it on another one, joist lift. Okay. And there's a little, I don't know if you can see a little bell.
Yep.
Okay. Click the bell. Okay. And it'll offer you as default a date. If you don't want a date, you click that and change it to the start or the finish.
Okay. And
then it'll move it. And then you just put the reminder in here, whatever you wanted to say, tell you.
Okay.
And press save.
Oh, that's easy. Very easy.
Yeah.
Simple.
I mean, the thing I like about it is really simple to do. So other things it does that are really helpful is, I don't know how many bars you can see, but we'll just pull that across and see a few more bars. So I've finished setting this all up. I'm happy with the program. It's how I want it to be. And what we do is we then press this button up here, which of course is baselines. Okay. It's called baselines. If you press that, you set the baseline. And I don't know if you can see, but under every bar, there's a black line now.
Yep.
Now, if I move the program, if I move that item of the program, because I can drag these, that's the other beauty about it. I don't have to do it over there. I can just drag it. So if I move that over there, okay, the baseline line stays where it was. So straight away, you can see that you've moved the bar and the program's moved. Okay, so it's a way of showing that actually the program is, you're so many days behind because, that's where the program should be and you're actually over here. So you can count those days. So it's a really simple Why?
And if you just move the, let's say, the 14 one, the drainage stage, it's going to move the items it's before that well, or
It
before the
doesn't.
drainage.
Yeah, it tends to move. Yeah, it'll move everything basically. But if you and then unless you set it as done, so you're able to also. So if we look at percentage complete, so let's go into this one, and we'll say that's 100% complete. So it says that the construction phase is now 29% complete because it's worked it out from how many days. Okay. And you can't see it, but there is a line, there's a little light line. You can change the colors. So if I make that red, and I'll make that red, which isn't complete. You can see the difference. That's got a line through it, and that hasn't got a line through it. So it shows you what's complete.
Okay.
As you go through it.
And it's you have to add manually, obviously, what is completed and how many percent, or is just like you should.
Yeah, you have to. Sometimes you can drag it. Occasionally, I'll let you drag it. Not this one. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, so you have to add it manually in there. So you have to decide how far you are along and update it. So the other thing that you can do is you see how we moved it back there, and it was back here. So if we just move it back. What I would do is when I moved that, so I'm going to move that. So therefore I come up here and you've got the ability to add a comment. Okay, so it's just for that row. So you can add a comment, and in that comment you can say why you moved the bar. So actually you can put every time, the rule that you have to put on yourself or people working for you is if they move a bar, they've got to write in the comments why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it how does it work in a normal? Obviously it's going to be fill up with all the details, what's going to be, what we need to get, what's the process. Obviously everything it changes all the time, even if it's just a day or 2 days. It's nothing is going to probably start and finish exactly the day people put in this diary. So it's every time you type something in, it's not going to be too much information. Or we move this 1 day, that back 2 days, that's again forward 2 days.
Well, the thing is, if you remember that a program like this isn't something you leave in the drawer, you're actually looking at every day. It's a bit like your daily diary.
Okay.
So the idea is to move it every time. If you move it every time, you're keeping an accurate record of what's happened, how it happened. So when your client at the end of the job goes, well, you're 3 weeks late, you can look back at your notes and go, right, okay, well, 2 days were because you didn't decide on the kitchen, despite the fact we gave you the date we needed it by. We've got another 3 days because doors weren't delivered, but you changed that order. And you can put all that information into this, and it will run a report on that. So it'll run the report. So that kind of really helps. So it's not a thing that you do, make it look pretty, and then put up on the wall and leave it. It's something that you go back to all the time, and it will be telling you all the time what you need to do as well. So it'll be emailing you and going, order the joist for this job, order the do this, do that, start. Yeah. And I would put so much detail in. I'd actually say, if I've got a particular trade that has told me they need 7 days notice to be called in, I'd put a 7 days notice milestone in there as well. So it reminds me to call them in. So it's a thing that you should be constantly updating, constantly using, and visiting every day to update it and see what's happening.
And can you relate things together? So instead of to write under each other, like it says block and beams, and you wrote under this order block and beams, can it be just connected to the block and beams so it's hidden, but if you click on something, you just see in the drop down, like, okay, I had to order this for the block and beam job. I need to order this, sand, cement, this. So it's not in the main structure, it's just on there that
well, if you set, if you can put it in the same one, you can move them further up here. So if you have block and beam, you could have milestones. So what you can do is you can filter it. So
Okay.
if you look up here, you've got a filter. So if we look at filter, we'll just put, and it's changed since I last used it. So, but you could filter, there was one here somewhere. There was a filter that you could just see the milestones. I think there still is, but I'm not 100% sure. Hold on, so duration. Hold on, yeah, that's it. So duration is one of 0. Okay, so by doing that, duration is one of 0, and applying it as a filter, we just have the milestones show up.
Okay.
So now let's say you've got a client and you want him to have a copy of this, or you want to send him all the dates he needs to use. You can filter it so that you can just print off what he needs to know.
Okay.
The other great thing about that with clients is we're looking at the moment. Let's put it back. Let's just clear the filter. We're looking at in Gantt chart view. But let's say someone you're working with can't really understand a Gantt chart, it's too complicated for them, and or the client, and they want to know what's happening. You can just change it and put it in calendar view. So then it tells you what's happening every day in just a calendar view. So once you get the information in, there's lots of ways of getting it out.
Okay.
So hopefully you can start to see why it's quite useful. And this sheet could be shared, so you can share it with anybody. One of the buttons up here. So really, if you want your client to see the sheet, that's fine. But you can print it off in different formats and show them that as well. Or you can print it off as a PDF, so you never have to print it off on paper and send it to them. So there's all different ways of sharing information once you get the information in. And as I said, if you're doing loads of extensions, or you're doing loads of new builds, once you do the kind of a master program for one, with all the calling times and stuff like that, all we have to do is run through and adjust it for the actual project rather than actually rebuild it straight away. So it's a quick system to use.
Yeah, it's very useful. Last time I was looking at it was quite useful. I was interested because one of my subcontractor used it and he shared it with me what he was putting together with his part, and it's quite interested. But it was quite interesting, but I didn't use it. I just did my own way. It felt much quicker when I get used to it. Probably the same thing with this. If you get used to this, it's obviously
Yeah. I mean,
easier.
but it is easy to learn. I mean, if you started doing this with Microsoft Project, you might be a few months learning it. This would just take you a couple of weeks, and actually an hour. I mean, you could start to use it now from what I've told you. And this video will be recorded and it'll be available, so you can go through it again. But yeah, I think it's a good system. I think it's cheap. There's better stuff out there, but this is simple, is what you need.
Yeah, if it's too complicated, you
Yeah,
don't have time to worry about it. You need to employ someone to
absolutely.
do that.
So that's really kind of Smartsheets, what it does, and different views and stuff like that. And if you actually use it on a daily basis and save your baseline, it gives you a fantastic record of what's happening. And particularly if you're a growing company and you're delegating someone else to run the site, you can see straight away from the notes and the baseline how the site's going, and also how much is completed. So it gives you a really really good tool to have that feedback from people that you've delegated to. So that's why it's pretty good. So that's that one. Any other questions around Smartsheet?
No, not at the moment. I will probably try. I'm going to start using it and see.
Yeah, just try. I mean, if you've got this big project you've got coming up, maybe it's worth doing that and doing that on Smartsheet. And if you do if you do the contract program on Smartsheet without all the detail and just print off the contract program, then you can build the rest up around the contract program anyway. You can save the contract program so you've got a copy of it clean, and then you can create a new file and then build the rest of the site out.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, I love programming. I'm quite addicted to it to see if I can get it right and get it, but you need a lot of information to come into you. So things like asking subcontractors how long it's going to take, making sure you know how long the supplier is going to take to deliver stuff, and also asking subcontractors what their lead-in time is, because, you can't often, and this is a real bad thing that builders do, is that they phone an electrician and say, I need a sparky tomorrow, they need, and they haven't given them any time. And, often I hear this phrase we have, which is, yeah, I'll just go into the freezer and defrost one for you. It'll be ready tomorrow, because it's not the way to run a site. You've got to give a week's notice, and you've got to, make sure that you understand what you're doing. And the other thing is, so many times subcontractors come in, it's not ready for them, because people kind of jump too quickly or panic. Whereas, if you call people off and you've got this in the right manner, and you've got this system running, you're going to run the site better. It's just basic. So
yeah, it's too many things to remember. So it's better if there is something you can rely on, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, if there, construction management and Gantt charts in construction are some of the most complicated ones you'll see. So we actually do a very complicated job. If you think about how many people and materials we have to program in to bring together to produce, any form of building, it's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
So if you look at most people who, what they call themselves project managers, because they might project manager in software, or they haven't got as many components to bring together in their management of people, and they haven't got very many components at all to bring together as far as materials are concerned. So I don't know how many different materials it takes to build your average house, but it's a few.
It is. It's a lot of things.
Yeah. Right. So stop.
Okay.
Let's leave that. So the other thing I was going to have a look at, I don't know if I might have it open. I have got it open, it'll be easier. I've started doing some flow charts, apparently, which really kind of make you start to think about how your company operates and how each part goes. So I'm just going to find those, and I'll just show you a couple of what I've done and see if you think it's useful to understand things like the client journey better. So let me just quickly find one, and should have opened them and have them in the background before, and I think they help me a lot to kind of get my head around how to get it over to everybody a bit better. Right, where are we? Oh yeah, there's one. So which one's that? Okay, so we start with this one. Opens, right. I'm just making it so you can actually see what it is. So this is, once I share the screen, this is the flow chart for the first part of the client's journey. There's two parts, stage 1 and stage 2. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so green basically is the route. Red is any end of the route, so anything that ends, and the kind of yellow orange color is notes of what you do. So we know that the client's journey starts with when you're asked to tender. So in this process, going from asking to tender to will you tender, you've got to work out whether it's to how long it's going to take to make that decision, not to tender it, and what criteria you're looking at. We discussed that, didn't we? And the fact that, are you looking at a certain geographical region? Have you got the right drawings to price it? Is it a client you've met? All those kind of things you need to write down as a list. And then that works really well, because that means if you're not around, someone else can have a look at them for you and they know what list to tick. Then you decide at that point, will you tender? So if you decide you're not going to tender, you go to this. So that's an end, because you just put no, and it's a template letter required. So you need to produce a template for saying, no, I'm not going to tender. Preferably kind of a polite one, rather than I'm not tendering, sod off. But yeah, so a polite professional letter, which you can send out every time, which is easy, and you'd have to think about it. So, what I used to do is used to phone up my PA and go, yeah, can you send a no out for that, please? And she'll know exactly what I meant. It's a standard letter. And then you've got a yes. So if so the green is kind of the route you'd want to go, and yes, and again, you'd have a template letter saying you will tender it, and just agree the dates you're going to go back and stuff like that. And then you go through the tender process. So actually, and you get tender submitted. So at this point, you've got 3 things to think about: testimonials, a brochure of some type, and try to book a meeting to discuss the tender when you put it in. Okay, it's difficult. They often go, no, but at the end of the day, if they're serious about using you, it's in there that you've got to better sit there and better justify the tender to you. You might better value engineer it for them, and there's loads of things that you can do. If you don't get the opportunity to sit down, it's not going to happen. So, by trying to book a meeting to discuss the tender when you put the tender in, if you do get that meeting, you've got a much better chance of winning the tender. So at the tender meeting, that's not the pre-start meeting that we talk about in the client's journey. That's a tender meeting where you're discussing the tender. Just remember, the really kind of valuable thing is you never discount. Second you discount and say, okay, I'll knock 10% off to get the job, you look unprofessional, because they just think, well, he's overpriced it by 10% then, hasn't he? Okay, so you value engineer. So what you say is, okay, we won't build the roof then. I know it's silly, but or in the case of a staircase, we won't have glass pillars balustrade, we'll have timber balustrade. That would bring the price down for you. Okay, so you value engineer all the time. And I would say 9 times out of 10, people actually go back to the original quote because that's what they want. They're just trying it on a little bit. Occasionally they'll go, okay, which means they really are over budget and they're struggling. So that's quite an important bit of it. So that meeting isn't the pre-start meeting. That's a different meeting. So then you have the tender outcome. Really important bit here. So if you've lost, again, template letter, thank you, feedback, and if you've got any future work, you'd be interested. Okay. People who do that, in my mind, are professional, and I will go back to them. And next time they'll be further up the list for me to actually accept the tender.
Okay.
So because they've come back to professional, there's so many people in this industry that are not professional. and I meet lots and lots of them, because I phone literally. Most of us have phoned 1,000 contractors in the last 6 months, and the amount of people that put the phone down just aren't professional. So
yeah, people get lots of jobs without being a professional. That's why they don't.
They do, but you get a lot more jobs when you are professional. So, and the only reason why people get jobs without being professional is because there's a lack of contractors.
Yeah.
So, and there will be carry on being a lack of contractors, but there is a lack of really good contractors, and really good contractors are going to, get that extra money for it. They're going to get that kind of premium price. I have a client who's based in Rutland at the moment. He gets a real premium, a massive premium, because he's a trendy little company. He's growing quite quickly, and people actually want him to do their job. They're desperate for him to do their job, not anyone else. So he's got a really good name for himself. So, sometimes he's by far the most expensive. So tender outcome. So if you've won the tender, then you've got a letter required for that, and again a template letter, and then we move on to stage 2. So once we've done that, that's stage 1. That's the kind of the tender bit, and then in the client's journey, we move on to stage 2. So I just have to find that now. Again. Got it. All right. It's just stage 2 is a bit more simple. So here's stage 2. And you can see that we've got a pre-start meeting. So this is the meeting. This is the one. This one meeting is the one that actually saves us so much time and problems. So template with tick boxes, signature for both client and authorized company representative. Payment terms, you have to go through variations, written instructions, what they are, the program, updates, when and where and how, prelims, what they are, etc. This is the opportunity to be open with your clients and manage their expectations. So this is the meeting that changes everything to me. And if you have this with people and you go through the right stuff, you will cut your problems down a lot. So it makes a big difference. I'm just going to chuck the dog out.
Okay.
Right. So it's really important to not only put a lot of effort into this template, but also to then review at the end of every project and update the template for anything else that we could add to it to help. But I have enough clients now using this that they all say it's a game changer.
Okay.
So it's quite important. So then you kind of you go into this circle. Okay, and this circle is basically weekly report, feedback, or monthly or fortnightly drawdown, and repeat that throughout the project. So you always keep them up to date. You're being proactive and keep them up to date. You're making sure that they're aware of things before they ask. But you don't have to every day. You just do that. You set a day that you're going to update them, and you update them, and you make sure that they're fully aware. And if you give them an updated program and you let them know all the other things, and they already have seen it and understand it because you've explained it all to them previously, that should make it the relationship with the client a lot easier to do. And then basically at the end of project, which is when I suggest you get a branded photo album, including team photos. Ask for testimonial. You've got to remember, part of your process is to ask for the testimonial at the end. and and covering those 3 core points that we keep going on about. Send thank you letter and gift. That's a good idea. I mean, the gift can just be the branded photo album, but a bunch of flowers. You've got to remember, if someone's building an extension or building a house, it's going to be either their most expensive or the second most expensive thing they've ever done. So you've got to kind of treat them a bit special because of that. So if you went out and bought an Aston Martin for 200 grand, you kind of expect them to kind of like treat you well and maybe give you a bunch of flowers with it. When I bought my BMW, they said, here's your car. Really pleased you bought it. And we've got you a lovely bunch of flowers for your wife.
Oh, that's nice.
So, it's a nice touch. Car was rubbish, but anyway, the flowers are nice. So that kind of works as well. So explain also that point in the project. Make sure they're totally aware of what's warranted and what isn't. Okay, that's often where we fall down, but we should actually be discussing that also in here. So you do everything at the beginning of the process, and they don't think you're trying to get one over on them later on.
I mean, is this process probably you put it in the contract actually, so you put all these topics like written instruction, a program, and things like that.
You actually do put in the contract, but how many people read the contract?
Yeah, they don't. They just sign it.
Yeah. So what you're doing is you're saying, look, I'm a professional. I'm here to hold your hand and take you through the process of having your building built. Okay. So as that professional, you sit down and explain everything and explain what a variation is, how prelims can affect the cost of a variation or an overrun. You explain everything quite openly in a way that you want to make them avoid it. So you explain that if they're late picking their kitchen by a week, the program will go out by a week, which will cost them a week's prelims. You don't want that to happen for them.
Yeah.
So it's in their face telling them, we're trying to save you money. So if we give you a date to pick the kitchen. Yeah. So that's kind of, that's really what that's about. So that's the client journey one. And then we've got the construction process one, which I haven't finished yet, but I'm working on that. But that kind of works. Is that useful?
Yeah, it is, because obviously I wanted to ask you actually about this, if you could write something down with the client journey, because obviously everyone has their own thoughts about this, how they should do. Obviously we went through all of these things, but everyone does it in a different way, what they want to do with the clients and how they're deciding. And for example, this 207 day, like if you're deciding if you're going to go with them or not, it's very obviously, if it's an existing client and I did a couple of jobs for them, it's very easy to say yes, we do it. But if it's a new client, it's very hard to decide. You don't know what you.
Yeah, but then what you do, Carol, is you allow 5 days, but it doesn't stop you from doing it quicker.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying.
So, I mean, what I'm trying to put in place for one client at the moment is that they keep forgetting to price things, or don't forget, they just go overwhelmed. So we're trying to get them to a routine where they will sit down, or they'll have someone sit down and price on a Wednesday. So they know in their head, any day, like apart from Tuesday, any day that they meet clients, and they're only not pricing big stuff, it's smaller stuff. Any time they meeting clients, they want to price stuff, they will price it on the Wednesday. But if it's on the Tuesday, it'll be the next Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're just being consistent in doing it on a certain day of the week. But there's one kind of solution doesn't suit everybody, because we're all different companies, all doing slightly different things, but also we're different people. Some people, to be tied down on a Wednesday to do pricing, that's it, they'd hate it. It's not in their personality to be that constricted and told what to do, even if it's their own rules. And some people love it. They love the routine.
Yeah, and it depends on the size of the company as well. So if someone does these things, there is a special, department or one guy who just only, think about those parts, so they can adjust for that time. Like so many companies just pay once a week, so it doesn't matter what you did. It's just like Friday or Tuesday
Yeah.
or Wednesday, or so
Yeah.
that's the only day they go through all the invoices and pay everyone out. So that doesn't matter what you say, it's going to be Friday.
Yeah. So, I mean, hopefully, that kind of system will work quite well. I think that well, I'm working on the kind of bigger one, which is the construction process. So that's really going to be quite a vast flowchart. But I think flowcharts are quite good. I think they get you to understand each stage. And you can buy, you can have a copy of those if you want them.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Because we are men, so we are more visual, so we can.
Absolutely, we are very visual. Yes, I
we
remember
can,
well.
It's easier for me as well. Even if I wrote everything down, it's every time I started to write it down and try to put a folder together, it was different every time I started to do it. So it's always, there was changes in it.
Absolutely. So I will. Well, I'm seeing you on Tuesday anyway, so I will see you on Tuesday.
Okay.
I've got to go to another meeting now. So that's all good. I don't know if Bronwyn's still on at the moment. She often goes and makes the tea for the kids while we're doing it. Though she said she was really looking forward to me talking about Smartsheet, so maybe she was lying. Maybe she wasn't looking forward to it. So anyway, so she'll be gone soon. And so I'll see you Tuesday and see what we can sort out about that, and sense check it a little bit for you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Right, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a great weekend.
And you. Nice long one.
Yeah, it will be. Thank you.
Okay, cheers. Bye.
See you on Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Bye.